Good morning and welcome to Rising. We've got another great show for you today. We were up late watching the joint address to Congress that took place. Marianne Williamson is back in the chair with me to react. Nice to see you, Marianne. Lots to discuss.
See you too, thank you. Robby and I will embody the divergent views that Americans had about the president's speech. So let's hear what Robby has to say. What's on your radar, Robby?
Happy to tell you. President Donald Trump delivered electrifying and entertaining remarks last night to a joint session of Congress in which he laid out his policy vision for the next 4 years. Now, far from running away from the promises he made to his voters and the American people at large, Trump promised to continue working toward world peace vis-a-vis Ukraine, toward a stronger economy, and toward an America First policy of ending pointless and unpopular spending on foreign aid projects. Indeed, the highlight of the night was certainly Trump rattling off a long list of foreign aid recipients uncovered by Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. Let's watch.
$40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that is. $8 million to promote LGBTQI+ in the African nation of Lesotho, which nobody has ever heard of. $60 million for indigenous peoples and Afro-Colombian empowerment in Central America. $60 million.
If the entire speech had just been Trump getting that list of unnecessary foreign payments, I think it would have been just fine. Trump also vowed to cut regulation, of course, and he touted his executive order requiring that for every regulation added to the federal code, 10 must be deleted. Be still my beating heart. He also said federal workers would return to work in person or be fired. He said the days of rule by unelected bureaucrats are over. He also declared, quote, "I've stopped all government censorship and brought back free speech in America." And of course, Trump bragged about ending DEI. All of these initiatives, ending DEI, repealing pointless business-killing regulations, and ending federal funding for various foreign aid schemes, are extremely popular with the American people. Maybe the Democrats aren't aware of that because they greeted Trump's message with icy silence at best. Now, some of them heckled and interrupted him. Here was Democratic Representative Al Green being removed from the chamber after interrupting Trump's speech.
Mr. Green, take your seat. Take your seat, sir. Take your seat. Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
I did not care for him pointing his cane at people, but your mileage may vary. Now, we'll be discussing the Democratic response to Trump later on Rising, but spoiler alert, I was not very impressed by it. This is not a party that has any idea right now on how to counter Trump at all. It's because they don't appreciate that his message is, as I just said, popular, that ordinary Americans feel taken advantage of by a federal government that cares more about sending billions of dollars to Ukraine than repairing vital American infrastructure, or ending job-killing regulations, or eliminating redundancies in the federal bureaucracy, or making it easier for American families to flourish. That the people gave Trump a mandate to reform the government's relationship with the governed, us, to make federal power more accountable to the people. But if the Democrats are completely lost, the Republicans, to be fair, are at least kinda, sorta, a little bit lost. That's because even though they cheered Trump when he called out reckless government spending on those stupid foreign aid projects, well, here's the thing. Most of them voted to spend that money in the first place. And they haven't voted for new legislation to cancel the spending. They act like they're on board with Trump and with Elon, but unless they pass legislation to actually enact the cuts, then it's just that, an act. Republicans, unfortunately, talk a good game when they're out of power, but when it comes to actually roll up their sleeves and cut government, they fail to do it every time. Republican Representative Thomas Massie, one of a small handful of principled limited government conservatives, called out his own party, writing on X, Congress just stood up and applauded DOGE for exposing wasteful and fraudulent programs that Congress itself funded and plans to fund in the coming CR. That's exactly the problem. Now is the time, Republicans. I appreciate you all clapping like trained seals when Trump speaks, but if you really mean it, now is the time to get to work. And so, as I said, Marianne, I think the best part of the speech was him just going through all of those programs that the American people do not support to the extent they even knew they were going on. We Americans want an America First policy, not all of this reckless spending all over in the world. That's what I believe, at least. I think public opinion is with me. And the Republicans are all clapping, oh yes, let's cut this spending. Like, you guys, you have done nothing to control this whatsoever, which is why it's been outsourced to a private citizen, Elon, to identify, because you failed. So I hope they blow me away, change my mind, actually get rid of that kind of spending. But they have failed to act, but here we are.
The president's quip about sedentary migrants was pretty funny. I'll give you that one. But in general, the president's speech was dark, it was menacing, and it was filled with lies. The two that are the most important in my mind have to do with Social Security and have to do with Canada. First of all, the president knows that everything he said about Social Security was a lie. All of those facts have been debunked about how they're sending all these checks to people who are 120 or 135 years old. The president must know these are lies, but the American people need to know that there's a reason for these lies. What they are doing is that they are buttering people up to feel like it's a terrible program that's doing terrible things. Now, 69 million people in this country receive a Social Security check every single month. And in its 80 years of existence, they have never missed sending out those checks. There are people who can eat because of those Social Security checks. There are people who can live lives of a minimum level of dignity. Many of them absolutely panicked listening to the president last night. So American people know what's really going on here. He knew he was lying. But Musk has said he wants to cut out 12% of the workforce. So the president, it's a bad cop, good cop thing. The president comes on to say, oh, it doesn't work. It's a terrible program. It's a mess. So then what can happen is Musk can come in, get rid of 12% of the workforce. The former head of the Social Security Department says this could completely break down the entire infrastructure and those checks could stop being sent out. This is a way to start privatizing Social Security, and it's terrible. Also, I'm sorry, and then we'll talk about Canada.
Let me just respond to that real quickly.
Okay.
Privatizing it is not getting rid of it. It would be making it be run more efficiently, like Musk has done with many of his companies, including X, where he reduced the workforce by 80% and can still deliver the same product. If they can do that with Social Security, that's savings they can pass on to you. It's not to give people smaller and smaller checks, but to recognize that this system will go broke, it will go insolvent. My generation, people younger, are paying into it and are not going to get a dime out of it unless it's fixed.
Okay.
And you should. I don't think it's right to view it as a government jobs program.
First of all, it is working. And the way to remedy any problem we would have with the future is simply to remove the cap, so that people be paying into it at a slightly higher level of income. So Social Security is not a mess. That's the point. They're creating the idea. It's like our parklands. It's not a mess. Consumer protection, it's not a mess. What they're doing is making you feel that it's a mess so that Musk can get rid of all these things.
Make people's paychecks smaller.
Pardon?
That's what Democrats are going to campaign on?
No, I'm not saying Democrats are going to campaign on anything. I'm saying right now that the program is working.
Raise the cap so that more of your paycheck every year goes into this government entitlement program.
You know, maybe because you're young, you're not thinking about the 69 million.
I'm not.
You can't even imagine, nor can Musk imagine, what it feels like to be an older American. Your usefulness to the economy is greatly diminished. Your body is beginning to break down. And those Social Security checks make all the difference in the world, whether you can eat, whether you can make sure that you will not be one of those 700,000 homeless people living on the streets. This man is at this point, and this is emotional abuse as well as economic. Excuse me?
What about younger people who can't afford to start families and purchase homes?
Social Security is not the problem there. Those Social Security checks being given to your grandparents is not the reason why you're having a problem with the economy. None of these things, all the things you were talking about in your talk about how it's so great that we're getting rid of that money so it can go to the people. It's not to go to the people. It's for tax cuts for billionaires. And attacking Canada, one of the lies is about fentanyl. Let's be very clear. 0.02% of the fentanyl that comes into this country is from Canada. At this point, there are experts who say that more drugs and illegal firearms, by the way, are going from the United States into Canada than anything like that coming from Canada into us. What they are trying to do is to crush the economy of Canada so that Canada will be in such a desperate state as to want to be a 51st state. Canada doesn't like it, and no American should like it. We talk about our sovereignty. Well, they have sovereignty too. And these imperialistic threats and these tariffs, it is terrible what the president is doing. I didn't find it electrifying. I found it kind of horrifying, actually.
Well, tell us what you think, and we will continue reacting to the speech. We've got Stephen Olicaro joining us in a minute to discuss the Democratic response and whether he thought that was effective. More Rising right after this.